talk about a little something that I was talking about in the last video, and we got into the topic of, you know, the labels that we name these things and why we label them those things to begin with. So I spoke about plant medicine, but the word medicine in there would implicate that there's something that you're trying to fix within you, right? And everything starts with how we label these things, the words we use toward the things that we're categorizing. So, I mean, I had this talk with Aaron where I basically dismantled language or eliminated language out of the equation to basically get to the root core of certain things, because you can't help but to form some mental pictures whenever you hear a word, right? And whenever it comes down to anything, right, is dismantling that. What would you be doing? You'd be going back to like its most primitive form. Now, when you look at animals in the wild, right, animals don't have this sense of self. They don't have an ego. So a really good way to basically look at this, to dissolve the ego, comes down to being like an animal. Would be to just not have an ego, but dismantling language. Language is the main thing that actually keeps everything in your mind programmed to think about it a certain way. So I dismantled the language part of things. Plant medicine, what are you actually healing from, right? Because we would say childhood traumas, we would be healing from, like, you know, our wounded ancestors or whatever it may be, right? But at the end of the day, they're all just stories. They're all stories that we create that actually develop as a character that we have now through our adult life, how we're programmed, right? So we would have to literally go back to when we were children. We were like animals, right? We were like animals, and they even took care of us like if we were pets. We pooped, we eat, and they took care of us just like that. We didn't have an interaction with our parents. We basically had the same interaction like if we had pets. But the reason I say this is because when you look at it from this primitive state, you would have to look at it from balance. Everybody's root chakra is imbalanced. So balancing your root chakra, you would basically be able to see it from the root core of things. And by far, I would say the animalistic side of things, which in balance, you'd be able to see the imbalances in the things outside of us and how we're doing everything inverted. Because we think we're so advanced, we have higher faculties over the rest of the animal kingdom, but these things actually can be our detriment as well, right? So when we say plant medicine, we only have certain things, for example, like human diseases, autoimmune diseases, right? These are actually mind viruses, because there's no such thing as diseases. Everything is a symptom arising from the root core of one thing, and that's your body not being able to eliminate waste properly, or energy stagnation, things not being able to move and flow. So what doesn't move and flow tends to putrefact or rot. So this goes down to even information, holding on to a belief system, right? This is also detrimental. But when you look at animals, they don't have an ego. They basically they're just energy beings, just moving and doing things, right? When you look at it from this space, you'll start to see that even certain things that we look up to, right? Like these plant medicines that we depend on to say, oh, this is basically going to be for, you know, healing or having a spiritual awakening or getting out of the matrix or whatever ideas you may have. But people worship these things outside of themselves. That's what I noticed. And it's a sensitive topic. No different than if you were to come out here and start to bash Jesus Christ, you're going to get a bunch of people that are going to be basically coming down on you the same way they hold religion around veganism, where they will say you're hurting animals and you get a bunch of people coming down on you. It's basically badges. All these movements, these people hold these badges, and they hold them so wholeheartedly that they want to police everybody outside of you. So now they do this with diseases as well, right? Certain things that you're programmed to believe, like if you go to the army, you're most likely going to come back with PTSD, and then you come back and you hold that as a label, and you actually even feel proud of it, to the point where if somebody was to tell you, hey man, you know, that's just you changing your mind, or something simple like that, let's just say, they'll say, how could you be so insensitive? You know, he's been through things you've never been through, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden they'll take this disease and it makes it look like you're talking shit about Jesus Christ. You know, same thing when you talk to a diabetic person or a person with an autoimmune disease. You don't know how it's like. You know, you don't know how it's like. I have to eat protein. I have to do this. I have to do that. You know, I've been told by my doctor, this is what I have to do. I'm like, all right, cool. Well, then you can follow the advice of that doctor and you can stay in the position you're in, right? Because they hold this they hold this as a badge, like diabetic. I'm a diabetic. There's even one girl who she had endometriosis, and she was like posting it online all the time, you know, and she kept on like hashtagging endo girls, right? And it's like, what the fuck? Like you're hashtagging these things as if you're like proud of it, and it's crazy the way the human is, right? Like cancer awareness. You know, they got to keep repeating this to you every year, the cancer awareness, because it's something that they wanted to keep in your psyche. All right, like the more you're aware of it, the more it becomes a recipe for disaster. When you have an inflammatory attitude, you're eating diet that's not conducive to your chemistry. Because if we look at these diseases, they're called human diseases, right? And we categorize them as human diseases. But then animals, when they catch something like diabetes or cancer, we say that animal caught a human disease. Why did they catch a human disease? It's because they're eating table scraps, human food that's garbage, that's not even biologically appropriate for the human. But then the humans eating that diet, that's not a human diet. They get a human disease coming out of it, and they categorize it as a human disease. So animals don't suffer from PTSD or childhood traumas or none of that shit. So we come out and build all these stories around it, and we say we got to heal these things, these traumas and these wounds, and feel these pains, when all you got to do is literally just become aware of it and change your mind. If you truly want to change it at the core, okay? An animal doesn't have to go take psilocybin in the woods and then have an idea of overcoming a fucking human disease and then go worship the mushroom. What the fuck? Like I don't see deer eating psilocybin and then, you know, overcoming a disease and then all of a sudden praising the mushroom and saying that, you know, the plant kingdom, the plant world, you know, this is the key to enlightenment. You know, they're gonna probably have a fucking trip, an experience, but that's all it is. It's just a fucking experience. You're having a psychedelic trip right now as we speak, literally, where you're here interacting in a place you consider either heaven or hell. This is a your psyche's working, it's active, so you have a psychoactive experience, right? So when you take these psilocybin or these magic mushrooms, what they do is just they basically forcefully numb the ego out. So everything looks like it's melting away. But then anxiety kicks in when you're not ready for it. Like, let's say, for example, you experience this. You know how if you get put in a sensory deprivation tank, you have anxiety, but because you get claustrophobic. And that's because you just can't stay in that state. You're sensory deprived. And you're basically so rooted in your senses here. That's what's keeping you here. Because if you think about it, if you get sensory deprived, let's say a sensory deprivation tank, what do you think happens to you? If you maintain awareness, you might come out of body, right? You may have an altered state of consciousness. And then what happens? Are you able to see anything? Your eyes, you have everything's pitch black, no feeling, no sound, no taste, no smell, no touch. Everything's gone, right? What do you see things? Where is that coming from, right? We say that's the mind's eye. So when the eye be single, the body fills with light, right? So let's say, for example, you're now able to see in the dark, but you think like you're gonna see what's in your mind. That's what's gonna arise, okay? But is that reality? Are you observing a program or an effect of the programs that you've been accustomed to here? It's still part of the same matrix system. You're just having it in a mystical experience, which you can have without the drug. You can have without the sensory deprivation tech. It just requires more focus and more attention, like a total body workout. Because think about this. It's scientifically proven that if you imagine yourself working out and you get very intensely, you know, focused or dialed in on this, it actually is proven that your muscles actually confuse and think they got to work out. And you may even feel sore the next day, or your muscles may even grow. And I'm gonna make a video on like losing weight properly and how the imagination ties in on this very importantly. from a spiritual level, and what that shit even means when you have excess weight. So you can imagine, okay, that if you can actually work out, okay, and look it up. If you work out, your muscles, your body doesn't know the difference between a real or a fake experience. You could be watching something on TV and it thinks it's really experiencing that, right? You rewire your brain. If you have an awareness and you have an intent and you really want it, but you do the homework to observe every single program that's not serving you. First of all, have a goal. What is it that you want, and why is it so hard for you to accomplish it? Right? And that's where you're going to start to be aware of the programs that don't support the goal you have. That's where you're going to start to identify these things. Because let's say somebody wants to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? But they don't. Let's say they want to get fit. They want to look better. Okay? They'll notice that working out, they're not enjoying it. They don't like the workout. But I will tell you right now, because they don't have a goal, or they don't have their mindset to know what they want to look like, this is why the workout doesn't seem enjoyable. But I guarantee that the moment you set a goal and put it in your mind exactly how you want to look, exactly how you want to feel when you look that way, and the goals you're going to accomplish from looking that way, I guarantee you the workouts, when you start doing them, they'll start to feel more enjoyable. The reason they don't feel enjoyable at times is because sometimes you're just, it's kind of like doodling, but you don't know where it ends or how it started. You just started, but you don't know where it's going. You have like no aim. So like you feel motivated when you have something to look forward to, but you already it's like manifested already. The moment you put it in your mind and you held an emotion and became emotionally involved with it. So like and I'm not against the psilocybin mushroom. I'm not against anybody who does it. Some people actually need it. You know what I'm saying? Some people do need it. You know? And I guess that's just the way, it's a path. And you know what's crazy? I've mentioned this in many videos. Everything works. Everything works. The flat earth system works. The round earth system works. All that works. Aliens, the whole technology, everything works. Okay? Your mind will make anything you want to work. It will make it real. Okay? So if psilocybin mushrooms is something that you feel works, then that's good. I applaud you. Okay? But then I'm always going to be coming from a perspective, all right? Especially from what I've done or not done, all right? I've had experiences without the mushroom. And one thing I've noticed is none of these things that have happened to me, like the fairy kingdom, the elves and whatnot, one thing that I did notice that was very clear is that none of these things ever had an actual shape. So the fairy kingdom, the fairies didn't look like fairies that you would look at in movies or anything like that. And it literally looked like a golden orb. And in that state, I knew I was in the fairy kingdom, right? And we would say, well, I labeled it the fairy kingdom. That name was given to that whatever space it was. But whatever idea or energy signature of that is, I knew that was it. You know what I'm saying? Some people may experience Jesus Christ, and it may not even be a form of a man. It may be another image of some light being, but you somehow know that's the image of Christ that was designed or anthropomorphized to kind of like talk about what that energy signature is. The elves never made themselves known. I was talking into the trees, but I knew there was elves in the trees, but I never saw the elves. But I knew that there were elves in that state. That's what I noticed. I don't even remember the conversation I had with the elves. We were having an intimate conversation. I just don't know what it was. And it was telepathic. So when I woke up, I didn't remember a lick of shit of what I talked about. But do you think that something else didn't listen to the information that came out of the trees from the elves? Fuck yeah. Right? Because my egoic conscious mind didn't pick it up. Something else picked it up. You know? The whole point to this is careful what you labeling, careful what you associating yourself with. Because these labels that you carry, that you gotta wear that. That's heavy baggage. Okay? Heavy ass baggage. And that's gonna require work to rewire and break out of those programs. A lot of people will even experience something called cognitive dissonance. You know what I'm saying? But if you're gonna take these plant medicines, I mean, don't just experience. Don't take it for medicinal purposes. Don't take it to heal anything. Don't take it for trauma. Don't take it for don't even take it for spiritual awakening. You don't even have to listen to what the fuck I'm saying. Take it as if you were taking a roller coaster ride and you had a fucking great ass experience. There's a lot of people who've never been on roller coasters. There's a lot of people who've never sat in a Lamborghini. You know what I'm saying? You have the privilege to do so. You know what I'm saying? But take it as just an experience. And whatever you get out of it, you get out of it. But, like, for example, all these meditative practices that I've spoken about, as far as, like, you know, the experiences I've had, I've caught myself. There's been times I wanted to go back into the meditation because now I want to chase the experience I had. So now I went from just, like, you know, going into it in a childlike curiosity to, like, wanting to chase an experience again. And you should never chase experiences. You know what I'm saying? Just be in the moment. The more you chase an experience, the further and further I was getting away from actually accomplishing that again. You know? You just stay present and stay neutral. Kind of like when you're out of body, you maintain a neutral state. But don't chase anything. Again, the world, you're not actually moving. The world is moving under your feet. So things are actually attracting to you. But where are you taking your vehicle? Where does your vehicle take you? Where's the world bringing you to? Everything is you, though. Everything is you. It just requires you to have a mindset. Just change your mind. Change your mind. Change your mind. Primitive nature. I'm going to tell you right now, one thing that's super important, balance out your root chakra. A lot of people want to go to third eye. They get up there and their root chakra's imbalanced. They're going up there evolved humans. And I've seen it already. I've spoken to a few people who have had a lot of psychedelic experiences, and there's nothing wrong with being in your ego. You get what I'm saying? But you could tell when it's not a spiritual space. You get what I'm saying? Balance out the root chakra. You got to literally become an animal again. But you're going to be an animal with the awareness of a human. Like, if you liked it, we'll talk soon.